Well, there we go again. All the hype for nothing. The same boy who cried wolf scenario. Donald Trump was supposed to be done, off the ballot, barred from the electoral process after being found guilty of engaging in insurrection. But all the hype for absolutely nothing. Here's the problem. The whole notion of Donald Trump having been engaged in insurrection, charged and found guilty of the crime, rendering him ineligible from running for president, yeah, that's not real, doesn't exist. That only exists in the mind of the very Trump deranged. After 2.5 years of this nonsense narrative being built, it all ends with a spectacular, humiliating loss for the Democrats as the Supreme Court hands down a 9-0 unanimous decision, left-wing justices included, officially putting Donald Trump back on the ballot. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so Trump's back on the ballot.
The Supreme Court issuing a ruling on the Colorado ballot case. I want to go straight to Ken Delanian, who is outside the Supreme Court with this decision. Ken, what do we know?
Good morning, Anna. We've learned that it was a 9-0 decision ruling that Donald Trump can be on the ballot in Colorado and other states. Justices during the oral argument seemed very skeptical of the idea that one state could decide for the nation whether Donald Trump was an insurrectionist and was therefore disqualified under this 150-year-old provision. Now we know that there was not a single justice who held that view, so there were no dissents to this 9-0 decision ruling that Donald Trump can remain on the ballot in Colorado as voters go to the polls tomorrow during Super Tuesday, and also in Maine, where there had been a decision to disqualify him from the ballot. And this ruling, we understand, has the effect of prohibiting other states from attempting to do so. And that really reflects what we heard from both liberal and conservative justices during the oral arguments, Anna. For example, Elena Kagan confronting the plaintiffs, essentially saying, your problem here is that you're arguing that one state can decide for the nation who can be president, and no justice was willing to go along with that.
This decision, of course, anything but surprising. The idea that rogue Democrat operative Secretary of States could simply take it upon themselves to remove the leading candidate of a political party ahead of an election, the idea that that would fly, that the Supreme Court would simply rubber stamp it, give it the green light, yeah, that was never going to happen. My reaction to the news dropping was rather emotionless. Just a quick yup, pretty much as expected. Democrats, on the other hand, or rather the Democrat operatives who pretend to be journalists on the TV, well, they're having a little bit of a different reaction. Take a look at this.
We've learned that it was a 9-0 decision ruling that Donald Trump can be on the ballot in Colorado and other states.
I'm not confident that that will produce a result that's good for American democracy.
This is actually what I had been concerned about. I had been concerned that should it go to the Supreme Court, they would rule this way.
I'd laugh if it weren't so sad.
My next guest says Donald Trump is still an oath-breaking insurrectionist. Do you have confidence in the Supreme Court? Do you think this court is partisan?
The court itself may have overstepped.
The court went way further than it needed to go.
Our colleague Melissa Murray has called this Supreme Court the YOLO court.
The criticism of the court is that they're playing interference.
Not since Bush v. Gore have we seen a court that's had this many opportunities to interfere in the election.
The headline here is that this is a unanimous ruling, but if you scratch the surface just a little...
This is a 5-4 ruling on part of it.
This is actually a 5-4 decision.
It's 5-4.
Trump will take this, spin it, spread the misinformation, disinformation on it. So it's a win for them.
He's on the ballot and voters will vote, and he looks like he's headed to become the Republican nominee for president.
You can't save a people from themselves. If they're determined to reelect him after he organized that insurrection, then there's nothing to stop the people from doing that.
The bottom line is they all agreed that Trump's arguments would carry the day in this case. I don't think that is a surprising result. After the arguments, where I think they all signaled they were highly skeptical of state efforts to disqualify a presidential candidate. The Chief Justice, for example, saying that essentially you would let one state dictate, or a handful of states dictate the outcome of the election. So I don't think this is a surprise. The Colorado Supreme Court was kind of off on a trip of their own with this ruling. Other state courts that had decided it had went a different outcome.
My larger reaction is disappointment. I do believe that states should be able, under our Constitution, to bar oath-breaking insurrectionists.
Of course, once again, as it is every time with these Democrats, anytime we don't get what we want, It's the end of democracy as we know it, or the Supreme Court has been compromised, yada yada yada. At this point, I can't help but feel bad for these people. Of course, I don't feel so bad because they're objectively horrible and continue to lie endlessly to the public, but in a weird way, I kinda just feel bad. I mean, what an emotional roller coaster it must be for these blue anon people. I mean, every couple months, it's the same repetitive cycle. We got him this time, the evil orange man is going down. Fast forward a couple months, crash and burn. I mean, absolute catastrophic backfire. Over and over and over and over again. The same frickin' repeating cycle. And due to the fact that we've seen this before, we've been here before, what do you think comes next? Of course, Democrat copium and moving the goalposts, but that's not what I'm referring to. What comes next is probably yet again another Trump surge. The Dems keep shooting themselves in the foot. The Fani Willis case was supposed to be the final nail in the coffin. Boy, did that turn out different. Jack Smith is finding out in the Supreme Court, and now a 9-0 unanimous decision putting Trump back on the ballot. The culmination here after the last year of hearing 91 indictments. And really, it's not just the last year. It started pretty much the first year Donald Trump took office, with the whole "the walls are closing in" thing.
He may be feeling the walls closing in on him.
All the walls closing in on him.
The walls closing in on him.
After essentially nearly 8 years, we find ourselves in the exact same situation. The Democrats were all talk, big claims, big accusations, and in the end, a nothing burger. And even beyond a nothing burger, Democrats once again exposing themselves as power-hungry and corrupt, willing to weaponize institutions, weaponize the courts in states and counties that they control. Every new indictment makes it more and more clear, especially when it all falls apart in spectacular fashion. I mean, what an interesting dynamic. The people who are constantly going on about this threat to democracy, once again, caught in the act, attempting to illegitimately sabotage the democratic process. And if you thought that it was now over, that after the Supreme Court handed its verdict, the Democrats would simply accept the decision and move on, well then I'd say you probably don't know the Democrats too well. They continue to double down. Here's Jamie Raskins having a little bit of a hissy fit on CNN.
I am working with a number of my colleagues, including Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Eric Swalwell, to revive legislation that we had to set up a process by which we could determine that someone who committed insurrection is disqualified by Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. And the House of Representatives already impeached Donald Trump for participating in insurrection by inciting it. So the House has already pronounced upon that.
Of course, the witch hunts continue. I expect nothing less. At this point, I'm honestly unbothered by it all. Keep it coming. The more they do it, and most importantly, the more they do the same thing expecting different results, the more they delve into this insanity, the bigger their inevitable fall will be. Anyways, that's pretty much it. Another Democrat witch hunt BTFO'd. Trump again, I guess, remains unscathed. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.